Good morning. You're welcome to Good Morning Anambra this beautiful Thursday morning. Also other national dailies, and we have reviewers with us. And we also have Engineer Charles. So Engineer Charles, good to have you.
Good morning. Good morning, viewers.
All right, quickly, we'll go straight into discussion after this short break. Stay with us. All right, glad to have you back on the show. It's our press review on ABS TV, and it's our flagship program, Good Morning Anambra. Quickly, let's start with the stories trending on ABS website.
Sakamori, you see the smell oozing out from these areas. You know, it's terrible. Recently, I visited around the church, Udumezes Church. You know, the smell oozing out from that Sakamori down there. People living around there, I won't be mincing word when I say that they are already infected with, you know, they wouldn't, maybe they don't know now, but certainly it manifests. There must be from that area. You do all the business. Governor, that he promised he will be taking the commissioner equally, make sure he work hand in hand with the governor. I remember likewise others in Anambra. So it is high time on that roads in history of cutting roads, starting with Oboko. Then again, when you talk about state government, that is also a very important one, especially now suffering in Nigeria. Terrible people living. Trying to cushion the effect of all this situation, hardship in Nigeria, providing funds either to businesses to support them, because a lot of businesses there should be support, not just the federal government. Of what the federal government is bringing is not. The vice president came to money and all that. It's not enough. There are businesses shutting down on a daily basis. Because these policies, if you look at what they're given, you just laugh. So if you give somebody, or some give, there are at times 500,000 and all that. So if this policies that will let them thrive. Thank you.
Go over to the first paper on the this morning, and that is the Daily Sun newspaper. The Daily Sun, Senate threatens zero military. And then we have camps in Kaduna. 100,000 naira withdrawal per week. Court hits Ebonyi PD fresh primary in 14 days. Preferred presidential candidate envoy. Atiku's rally shuts down Oshobo. Labour Party Cuba candidate joins. Recovers 120 billion. Nigeria loses $22.680 billion to oil theft. 2022 NMPC appoint Chai oil thieves Wuni. And then across river again, government adopts ex-accountant general on 3 others, shooting 1.
Let's look at the major news. This is an issue. This is a CBN policy that withdraw. Is an issue. Recent times, a lot of people are at it's still going to debate on it. That means that it is something that is still not. Commodity is one of the ways of increasing the value of that commodity, and we know that in recent times a lot of factors have led to our naira devaluing. Is the other Western countries in such where rather our foreign reserve sees the light of day, because from the explanation that was given to me by my friend who was, how this whole thing works, is going to affect us somewhat, to be to the benefit of our.
Much for that submission. Charles, do you
The second Niger bridge opens. That's a very welcome development. We begin to see ease that usually occur at second Niger, first Niger. Pick up a relative. Dead till after there's a place they call so almost like heading towards the for the next day. So such things I pray we don't. Obviously when you open the second Niger bridge, there will be division, people will follow the other way. especially those traveling to either Port Harcourt, Owerri, so that not those coming into Anambra safely, and within a short time you are in your destination. Because I've expected that should open up before the Christmas rush. Then I visited the Oba Axis, and I saw the very commendable the federal government has executed there. We need such projects, not just one. This Onitsha-Enugu Expressway is still suffering, and people are still clamoring for intervention. Whatever is being done, it's been prolonged. I think if the contractors have been mobilized enough and the government is very, honest in that project, by now it should have been a thing of past. But they continue to delay, take it years after years. Successive government come in and use it to campaign and, who our votes and all that. So we expected that before this government serves out, all these projects, the second Niger Bridge has been in the news for how many donkey years now? And thank God President Muhammad Buhari has actualized that. Then the second, the next one that should be looked at is this road, and then Onitsha Owerri road too is decaying. So there are a lot of things we need from the government. I know everything cannot be done in a day, but enough should be done at least.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So our next paper under review this morning is the National Star newspaper. We're still talking about the big story there is still about the cash withdrawal, Nigeria's lament, call for policy review, and then withdrawal limit to want to curb inflation, below FX rate, and then directive will accentuate currency hoarding experts. Policy will kill our source of living, SMEs and POS operators. Court throws out suit challenging Tinubu's candidacy. 1.9 trillion naira service-wide vote. Senate threatens 100 ministries, agencies with zero budget allocations. INEC, why we are extracting voter identification number VIN from PVCs. NJC reinstate Justice Ofili Ajumogbabia as judge of Federal High Court. Nnamdi Kanu's enemies sponsoring sit-at-home Ohanaeze Empire. We recommended the bench orders to ICPC for arrest, says Farouk. And then up there we can still see Facebook to spend $16 billion on tech orders for 2023 poll.
Yeah, may I talk about the issue of what the Ohanaeze Ndigbo said about the impending sit-at-home that was announced by, what's his name, Simon Eba, to start, I think, on the 9th, that's tomorrow. So, and we've gotten a counter press release from another faction of the IPOB saying that that sit-at-home should be disregarded. But we know how these things have worked in the past, whereby we've had these diverse information coming from seemingly the same people, and then when people decide not to obey such call to sit at home, what comes out of it, like the backlash and the victimization that also happens in the courts. We know that a lot of people have even started rescheduling their activities around this period to ensure that they don't fall into the hands of the people who are going to enforce the sit-at-home, because we know that the enforcers are there, and we know that their security personnel agencies, they are seemingly helpless to these things, because it seems as if the citizenry, the common man, is aiding and abetting some of these calls to sit at home. But we know that it's not helping our economy in any way. And it's still one of the things that is discouraging people from coming down here to invest, or from even continuing the investment plans down here in the southeast. So it is still us doing ourselves, so to speak, like the way we say it in the Igbo parlance. There's a need for us to go back to the drawing board and review what you really want as people from this part of the world, what do we really want? Do you want the Southeast to progress, or do you want things to really continue going, haywire to our detriment? Because I don't really see how all these things, are, restricting our activities, restricting our movements, killing ourselves, kidnapping ourselves, and all whatnot. I don't see how all that is going to help, the cause of emancipating people from the Southeast. So Johannes Ndib was saying that it is the enemies of Nnamdi Kanu that are, calling for this sit at home. I really think it's lame. It's a lame thing to say. It goes to show that they're also telling us that they're helpless. So because we gave them that mandate, Johannes Ndib, to see to the fruition of our interests. And we've seen that these kind of sit at home that just come up, sporadically, and the enforcers, feel everywhere and start harassing people. It hasn't been going well with us, and it's one of the things that people who do not mean well for the Southeast, hold on to cast aspersions, at us. So there's a need for Johannes Ndib to really tell us what is happening with our own indigenously formed security outfits. There's a need for the Southeast governors to tell us what they are doing with the security vote that they are being given. I hear it runs in the billions every month. What are they doing with these security votes to help secure lives and properties? So that if people would say, okay, this person, whoever is giving this instruction, does not have the right to give that instruction, we'll go and we'll continue with our daily activities, they'll be sure that they'll be secure, they'll be protected. But that has not been happening. Okay, the government will say, don't go for this, don't observe this sit at home, go about your daily activities. And you see the same government cancelling their own activities for that particular day and staying indoors. How do you make sense out of that? So these are some of the things that really get our people disillusioned with the present, state governments and our representatives.
All right. Quickly, before you comment on that, let's just read out what is in front of the Punch newspaper and you can combine that. The Punch newspaper is next this morning. Cash withdrawal limit, Senate grills CBN chiefs tomorrow. POS operators get waiver to pay processing fee. Central Bank deputy governors to face NAS panel. Senate debates policy next week. CBN says no going back on new cashless policy. Allays fears of rural dwellers and others. And then we can see down there EFCC auctions for fitted cars wants compliance with guidelines. Buhari failed Leah Sharibu activist. Empower fraud, ICPC detains the bench. Lawyers cries foul. Contesting presidency again will diminish me. Jonathan. All marketers fault NMPCL 34 days sufficiency claim. INEC knocks Tinubu over comment on e-transmission. All right, these and many more are trending in front of the Punch newspaper this morning.
Yeah, I'll touch. Let me touch the issue of the Naira, the recent policy by the CBN. It's quite unfortunate that things like this are coming up at a time Nigerians are talking about more measures to situations begging for intervention. And we're talking about redesigning Naira notes, things that does not really cushion the situation at hand. I expected at the tail end of Buhari's government to be talking about commissioning a refinery built as he promised. You heard what we heard what you read about the NMPC and marketers issue. So at this time, we keep dancing around important issues. Good a thing, the Senate will be, they said, knocks on the CBN deputy governors. At least they can get to iron out things and fashioning better ways. It may have its pluses and minuses. Okay. I also heard when you talk about waiver for POS operators. If you give, probably somebody said they want to control the abuse of Naira notes and all that, maybe throwing money in parties, clubs and stuff. Very good. It's overdue because at the time you see Nigerians, the abuse of, not just in Nigeria, it's a cultural thing. Even in abroad, you see Nigerians throwing money and all that. So even if you cushion it via that way, and you give waivers to POS operators, because people already cried that this will stifle small businesses like the POS operators. Now you're giving waivers to POS operators. That means many people can now go and open up, register as POS operators, and begin to take money, and you don't know what they do with it. I can register as one and begin to take money from the banks. Okay, so the issue of carrying Naira notes, and then there is 5% and 10% charge for exceeding. So how do you now? I don't know, but at the end of the day, you find out that the poor Nigerians will suffer it, and the cost of things in the market now is nothing to write home about. If you go to market, how do I spend 20,000 naira? When I go to market, 20,000 naira is too small because the cost of the only gallon of oil is about 10,000 naira now. So when you buy a gallon of oil, you're going to market for a day. You buy a gallon of oil, 10,000 naira. Would you buy meat? Would you buy rice? Rice is 50,000 naira already. The money allowed for a day is 20,000 naira. 20,000 naira and 100,000 naira a week. So how do you, and you're saying they should dispense 200 naira notes? That means we begin to carry bulk monies. How many people in the market will accept transfers? How many of them have POS for you to use your ATM cards to pay in the market? So you should look at this policy. Don't just pass policy and say 9th January it's going to be effective. How many business people now accept transfers? How many of them have POS? Some of them don't even have to operate it. So you just put on policy, and because you live in Abuja, you have access to modern things, and you don't know that there are people who don't even know all these things exist. Then again, the oil marketer situation with NNPC. Recently they said we have enough in the tanks to last for 34 days.
Yes.
Right? I bought fuel recently, 280 in Anambra State here, per liter. Marketers are saying these things are not available. They are not in the tanks. They are on the sea. The importers are having issue with the regulatory bodies, and the NNPC does not. So they are talking about deregulation, further deregulation of the whole thing, so that people can import and sell. And this whole thing would have been abated if our federal government is serious with governance. Buhari, one of the things he promised to do, which we all looked onto, was building us refinery within the first years in office. What? He's starting out. We can't see it. Many promises. When I go back to look at the promises Buhari made before he came into power, I feel like I shake my head. I say we need to be careful with these people coming in again in 2023 and make promises. Now, if Buhari has failed this much to provide, when we discuss issue of the heightened petroleum price, we refer to Russia-Ukraine war and all that. It says global phenomenon, but Nigeria is blessed. We have these resources, natural endowment, and we can equally refine. If Nigeria has one refinery operating, then we would have been supplying to other countries around us. So instead of taking our crude and exporting it to go back and import finished product, we would have been the one refining and exporting to countries around and make profit from it. This Russian war would have been a plus to Nigerian economy, but now we're crying, struggling. We're expecting in the private refinery of Dangote, which I don't know when it's coming up. So it's a huge loss.
All right.
And I call on Nigerians, election, you must look at the past, present, before you consider the future.
All right.
Looking at their body language, because the other ones and all that, you know who to cast your vote. Based on track record, stands now.
All right, quickly, let's see what we and this day newspaper this morning. Daily the new CBN policy. There you can see NCC announces Airtel bidder of 3.6 GHz spectrum band. Marketers move to dial scarcity, begin massive. Ministers blame states for slow-paced mitigation of flood disaster impact. 2023 court dismisses suit seeking Tinubu's disqualification. What we have in front of this day newspaper, NNPC, how we raise crude oil 1,000 mpbd to 1.6 mpbd. So quickly, Usta.
Yeah, I'll talk about the story about, let me see. There are lots of things I would like to talk about here, but let's the output, the quantity of crude oil is being from 900,000 to 1.6 million. Well, it's quite commendable, but they also are of the crude oil running into 22 point something this year, 2022. So it goes to show that we still have a lot of leakages, we still have a lot of questions to answer as to the integrity of people who are in charge of the movement of this crude oil from the point of extraction to wherever it is that is being loaded at the ships and then to the countries that they are being taken to for refining. It's quite sad that it is just in present times that we are crying foul at this system of moving our crude oil abroad for refining before bringing it in here, as if the Buhari government is the first government that Nigeria ever experienced. There has been governments before Buhari's government, all right? And all these governments have been playing the ostrich to this phenomenon, which doesn't make any sense at all, even to the person with the lowest intelligence quotient. How does it make sense that you take your raw materials abroad to refine, to convert them to finished goods and then bring them back into the country to sell to, the citizens? We lose a lot of money in that process. And then we've also seen, thanks to the person that was given charge of protecting our pipelines, we've seen that more than 80% of this crude oil does not even go out of the country in the name of the federal government. Most of it goes out of the country in the name of certain syndicates that have been formed amongst these people who are supposed to be protecting our natural resources.
Okay.
All right, and it goes into the proceeds go into their private pockets. So what does that tell you? It tells you that the problem has never been the president. The problem has never been the presidency. The problem goes down to the people that we send out, because some of the people who are part of this syndicate, some of them come from the Niger Delta area that are being plundered, whose natural resources are being plundered in the course of extracting this crude oil. All right. Some of these people are people from the southeast who are part of the committees that have been set up to carry out oversight functions of these pipelines. So let's stop pointing fingers at who is at least being sincere about wanting to stop the corrupt practices, and let's start pointing the fingers back to ourselves and to people we send out to represent us there, because they are the.
All right. Yeah. Well, on that note, we want to say a very big thank you to both of you for joining us on the press review this morning. Thank you for coming.
Thanks.
And also to you, Engineer Charles Obi, thank you so much for being here with us this morning.
Thank you for having me, and to our dear viewers, please look for your PVCs, keep them ready. In less than 90 days, we'll all go out and vote in leaders that will fix Nigeria right. Thank you.
Well, that's it on Press Review this morning. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Chidima Oranwa. We're going on a short break, but we'll be right back. Stay with us.